All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Strength Classroom.
Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Today, I'm going to have a guest with you who you may not have heard of, and that's always been the theme of my podcast. I'm going to bring you people who are really popular, and you've probably heard of them before. And then there's going to be a large portion of people who I feel need more exposure or deserve more exposure. And I basically expose them to my subscribers that I have here. So today I have Claude from his Instagram page is WilliamsWrestling. I will show it right here. It will be in the description. So you can go and subscribe if it tickles your fancy. So what he does, just overall give him a brief introduction. A lot of the stuff, as you can see here, revolves around wrestling and grappling. But based on what I've seen since I followed him, anyone that's an athlete or that competes in something, especially if it's like contact, like rugby, football, stuff like that, anyone can benefit from the training that you see here. So welcome, Claude. How are you today?
I appreciate you. Thank you for having me. I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. I was sore last night. I was doing the lateral rotational session. I was doing the side day from the front back side program that I'm trying to develop. But I was doing laterals, and let's just say after the end of it, my back felt like I had a hernia. I felt like I had a herniated disc. But I went home, and thanks to my knowledge and to my experiences in the past, I concocted a type of liquor, right? It was like a little bit of a natural limeade, right? You spritz the limes. It was like, I made a gallon. It was like 12 limes, sugar, water, a pinch of Himalayan salt, only in my cup because it's limeade. But I poured just a little bit of limeade, put beetroot powder, right? Because it contains nitric oxide and it helps with, all that beautiful magic. And then I put the pink Himalayan salt in that. So that's where the little sprinkle in the cup, as I was mentioning. And then I took 3 magnesium glycinate capsules, lied on the floor for at least an hour, edited the lateral rotational session that's on my page, Williams Wrestling on Instagram. Blow that up, please. And then I went to sleep in the bed because it's too uncomfortable sleeping on the floor. I tried it. I wanted to try it. I wanted to do it, but it's just, I'm a side sleeper. So, I just felt the floor is way too hard. And I had like 2 layers of sheets to, cushion the sheer force. But, I just treated that, right? I treated it as therapy. So I went to the bed, laid down, went to sleep, and then woke up feeling practically pain-free. My herniated, lower back feeling, scale of 1 to 10 was probably around like a 7.9, 8.1. And this morning I woke up at around maybe a 1.9 to a 1.96. So I'm blessed, man. I'm blessed because usually people, when let's say you're deadlifting or you're squatting and let's say your technique's off, your form's off, or it just wasn't your day, because that could happen when it's just not your day, whether you just had bad sleep, or your spouse, partner, girlfriend, boyfriend is stressing you out, or life stressing you out, work stressing you out. It's sometimes not your day. Maybe just not, your mind's not into it, your body's not into it, and you get injured, or you feel like something's tweaked. All right. Usually that has an entire mental microcosm of, it's a B. But, thanks to, my knowledge and expertise, I was able to, put things together. And Thankfully, my back feels good, so I'm blessed. I'm really blessed.
That's good. That's good to hear. You know what? Let's get into your split first. So you mentioned you have a split where it's like a 3-day split. It's like the front of your body, the back of your body, and then things that happen laterally. How did you develop that?
I'm not going to take full credit on it because I've been scouring the internet before I wanted to really try it. And it's a split where it's similar to push-pull legs, but I figured that, hey, why don't we just split the body into sessions where you're working the front of the body, the back of the body, and then the side of the body. So I'm going online and, people are actually asking. I'm on Reddit and like the users like, hey, what do you guys think of front back? But they leave the side. They don't talk about the side. So I'm here thinking it's a cool concept. It's like, okay, it's full body, all right? It's full body. Like, for example, it's full body back, full body front, and full body side. So you're already getting 3 times per week. You're already training the full body 3 times per week. So it's, let's just say, let's just do front, back, side, even though, let's just say we don't know the results or how effective that split is. You're already training 3 days a week, right? And the fact that it's full body, right? You are accomplishing a certain stimuli, goal, whatever you want to achieve. You can do it within that set day. So let's say, for example, you want to hit buys, right? You want to hit biceps or today is chest and triceps, right? That's in the front, right? It's in the front section of the session. Or, for example, triceps is actually in the back. It's going to get hit during back day. But, like, for example, this week, this is the first week that I really try to implement it. I did pull. It was because I'm here thinking, you know what? I think the posterior chain needs a bit, like, how in strength and conditioning, we tend to put the hardest or the most systemically taxing session at front on the first day. So I'm here thinking, you know what? I believe because you have the pulls, you have the heavy hinges. And honestly, if the deadlift is the most taxing exercise that humans could do systemically, then it kind of would make sense that, the hip hinge and the entire posterior chain should be put in the front. So, but here's a caveat with the 3-day split. It's you're working the side. So even though I'm doing the posterior chain, I'm also working the triceps because it's in the back of the body, right? Well, it's the backside. I did the pull, went into the push, not the push, the front side, right? Push. Well, yeah, push. Chest, triceps, pushing motions, right? That's where kind of the similarities between push, pull, and legs, right? Which I kind of don't get it because it's like, why would it be push, pull, legs if kind of legs are already involved? In my opinion, unless you're doing 2 upper body push, pull, and then the legs. For me, I'm so full body minded because athletics is all about full body. Wrestling's full body, football's full body. Volleyball's full body, even darts full body because you gotta use your entire body. Boxing's full body, you get the gist. But so I went into the front of the body, right? My triceps already worked from the pull, so you're already getting that. So for example, if I'm a person that really wants big arms, you're kind of working everything right within those 3 days. Well, a ton of duds is full body, but you kind of hit more than others. But everything's contributed. Just because you're pushing doesn't mean your back's is not contributing. And just because you're doing shoulders doesn't mean that just anatomically physiology comes into play. But I'm like, okay. So I fit after the push, after the front of the body day, I go home and I do 15 push-ups because I was watching Do Hard Things 365 do like 1,100 push-ups in the side of the street, and I'm here watching him for 30 minutes. I'm like, yo, I want to do some push-ups. So I go down and do some push-ups. I was thinking I'm going to do 30. I can only do 13. And by the end of that 15th, I'm sorry, not 13, 15. I can only do 15. After that 15th rep, I felt like my triceps were about to explode. I had my arms like this, flexed for at least a good 5 minutes. I could not feel my arms. Yeah, I could feel my arms. They were in pain. I even have I may post it, but I have a little mini video where I'm showing the entire muscle, like one of the heads. I don't even know what head it was. There's one of the tricep heads just absolutely pumped and inflamed and tortured. But that's because I already hit the triceps both days. So I'm here thinking, okay, this could be a pretty good split. It could be a pretty good split. So the way I'm doing it though, right? We're going back to the reason why I'm doing it. The way I'm doing it is, since I am an athlete, I do have an athlete-centric mindset, right? I have a wrestler's mindset actually, because wrestlers, we tend to experiment with things. We are the guinea pigs. We love guinea pig, right? And usually people don't there's so many memes and stuff like that on the internet. It's like, what's he training for? That's usually for wrestlers and combat athletes. Oh, what's he training for? And then now other sports are kind of, picking up. But, we're the guinea pigs in the entire strength and conditioning side of things. So I'm here thinking, okay, this split could work, right? But I'm not going to approach it the bodybuilding style, because that's usually what the people online are trying to discuss about. It's like, oh, does front of the back work? Bodybuilding style. And I'm like, we're athletes. We're not bodybuilders, we're athletes. You know, we could do hypertrophy. We could get the muscles bigger, but this ain't bodybuilding. Our entire training is not revolving around bodybuilding. I'm here thinking, okay, the side, because usually in the Reddits and the forums, like front and back, they don't usually talk about the side. So I'm here thinking, okay, yeah, we could, in the bodybuilding sense, you know, side is just like side raises. They don't even talk about the neck, you know.
Yeah.
Side of the neck, but it's like, oh, side raises, you know, side of the hips. Oh, okay. But what I'm doing in my style of the split, right, I'm incorporating rotation, all right? Rotation. So it's basically revolving around the core when it comes to the side. So with that being said, the way I'm structuring it is basically a kind of like a standard strength and conditioning approach where you're doing your warm-ups, your plyos, your power primer, your potentiations. Then if you have like an Olympic weightlifting or like a ballistic slow period, right? Then you go into your main movers, your 1A, 2B, or 1A, 2A, 1B, 2B, and then you have your auxiliaries, supersets. Then you have maybe your finishers in terms of holds, carries, ab work, neck work, which I'm kind of trying to include like the neck in the front of the session between the main work. So it's where you basically work the entire body in an athletic approach. Right? Then you have your cool down and your flexibility at the end. And the way I'm seeing it, it's like I said, it's a full body experience. And it's a very unique experience. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was thinking that I was gonna be waking up dastardly sore, but I'm not as sore as I have anticipated. I'm not gonna lie to you. Maybe it's because of the 3 magnesium pills per night that I'm taking and the concoction that I'm making, but I'm not as sore. I'm not as sore as it seems. Like, for example, this Monday, because I'm gonna get to that right now, but this Monday I did like a bastardized version of a stiff Romanian deadlift with a trap bar with 405, where my lower back was absolutely under flexion. Like I was basically snap city pulling with my back, like hernia city pulling with my back. 405 for sets of 3. Then I went and I did superset that with neck extensions with retraction. Then I was doing a barbell power rows with a very angled torso. So my lower back should be fried. My hamstrings should be fried. My quads should be fried. But I'm feeling good. I could touch my toes. I could squat without much, I guess, inflammation in my joints and my knees and my ankles. I will say my knees have been feeling a little bit, but that's a different story. But in terms of my split, it's a nice little split. And the reason why on my page there's like a little thing called Project Pain is because I'm trying to run a 6-day-a-week split where you're hitting the front, back, and side twice. So the first three episodes, right? The first 3 blocks in the session in the week, my bad, is strength biased. So that's where you the heavy weights, the low reps, the high intensity, and then the second 3 episodes, the last 3 episodes, it's more restorative, more high reps. That's where you could include your power into it. You much more explosive. You could experiment way more with isometric work and stuff like that. You know, the first 3 is more like eccentric, much more strength oriented. And then the next 3 is more hypertrophied, much more, if I want to say the word bodybuilding, you can say bodybuilding, but it's much more, it's much more endurance based, much more restorative based, much more, let's just get after it. That's where, and the cool part is you don't necessarily have to necessarily keep the movements the same. Because, so for example, in my opinion, you should keep the strength movements the same, right? Let's say if you're going to do a front squat week 1, I would rather have you do front squats for at least 3 weeks. Because let's say you want to do conjugate mode, all right, conjugate method, and you want to switch it every 3 weeks, all right, you could do that within that little mini series. Then the second, you could just go. I'm not gonna say just every single workout, just change it up, but mess with the tempo, add a little bit more isometric positions. Like for example, if I'm gonna do a RDL, a heavy like sets of 5 RDL on the first back day. On the second back day, I could probably do trap bar good mornings for like sets of 20, stuff like that. Then you could get your single leg. You can really get your single leg functional base movements in it. You could, like for example, this past lateral day, yesterday night, I was doing windmills just because I'm here thinking, well, dumbbell windmills is kind of lateral. You are kind of twisting and you're bending and doing all that stuff. So yeah, let's put it in there. Why not? So that's, and what I'm thinking is with the side of the split, right? The side portion, I think you can get a little bit experimental with that because it's like, who's really, think about it. It's who's really maxing out on side raises? Who's really maxing out on outside leg swings? Who's really maxing out on rotational movements? Nobody. It's like, who's really going to the gym to have tree trunk abs or tree trunk waist, right? We're these kids these days and these gym rats, they want the slim waist. They want that wide shield V taper. It's like, so we're not really with the side of the portion of the split, it's like we don't really need to have guidelines with that in terms of, we need progression and it needs to be structured. It's like, no, experiment with the side. If you want to be doing dumbbell windmills, you can. If you want to do we could get into the science-based lifting aspect if you want. But even that, if you want to take attributes of what these science-based lifter experts want to, you can if you want to experiment with that, but as long as it's functional. So for example, if you're an athlete, as long as it's functional for you, right? Like if it's not conducive to what you're trying to achieve, then don't do it. But in my little scenario where I'm kind of sidelined, I'm gonna, you heard it here first. I'm kind of like medically retired because I can't compete because I have blood clot. It's my second episode of blood clotting, so I can't compete, but at the same time, I'm still training in athletic fashion. So, one day that I can't compete, right, I'm still going to be doing light sessions of grappling, wrestling, but, nothing that provokes me to be in positions where I could, bruise and injure myself, because then we're in trouble. But, I'm still trying to gravitate towards an athletic approach because, I could make my training work for me. And what I'm trying to do right now is what I want. And then if whatever goal that I'm trying to desire, right, the training needs to allow you to progress into whatever desire that you're trying to achieve. So it works. The split kind of works, but you have to make sure that the program, it makes sense, and the front back side, it makes sense for now. It really does. And it's a good split. It's a good split. The only thing is, recovery wise, it could be a doozy because, if you just go balls to the wall all 6 days and you're natural, right? Because I'm natural. I'm a natural lifter. So it could be a little bit hard, but that's where that's where you got to go do your research. That's where you just don't, that's where you don't just listen to everything that you see and everything that you hear. You really got to do your research. So for example, let's say you do feel aches and pains. It's like, what kind of foods can I eat in order for me to recover? What kind of what kind of drinks can I have in order for me to fuel my body and stuff like that? It's just, what kind of practices can I do in order for me to, alleviate some type of pain, discomfort, uncomfortability, right? And that's what it is. But as long as you could tolerate the stress management, if you can manage the stress and manage the fatigue, I think you should be good. That's the split that I'm running on. Long story short.
Yeah, the split is very interesting. A lot of people push-pull legs would be the most typical, and even like it would be ran in a similar way where it's like 3 days on, 1 day off in that regard. But just the way you're splitting up the body is, as soon as I read it in the description, I'm like, that's a very unique way of training. And I've never thought of it that way. Just even if you take it look at the deltoids, I guess on the front of your body would be pressing in the front delts or raises, whatever. And then the side day would be laterals. I saw you did Lou raises. And then the rear delt would be hit on the days that you do the backs. There are programs where it's like the front of the body and the back of the body, but I feel like when you add in the side and the rotational aspect to it, kind of eliminates things to put on the other days and just like spreads it out in a very unique way that it was, because normally typically it's like bench press and squat movements are on the front of your body and like overhead and stuff like that. And then it would just be like essentially back and hamstrings for the back of your body. But like I said, putting in the side of your body, it just completely opens up. And that's definitely going to be, in my honest opinion, when I see things, how people train, that's a very underworked area of the body and just movements in general.
Yeah, it's a very unique it's a very unique approach. It shouldn't be as unique because think about it. Everything, if anything could be tried, everything could be tried, right? So it's not that it's unique, but it's overlooked. It's like when I go into the Reddit forums and stuff like that, right? And I get people's opinion, it's like they're still trying to, I'm sure there are a couple people who are actually doing the split, right? But it's to a point where, it's kind of, it's not talked about. For some reason, it's like, but then we kind of could get into the nuances. It's like, okay, if you do that split, you can run into, I guess, dysfunctional patterns because there's some camps that I want to say that, okay, if you're going to do a push, you need to do a pull to offset the balance and stuff like that. So, in terms of that could be the down pit, the pit that could tell you, hey, that it cannot be as efficient as you're saying. But at the end of the day, it's like, it's full body, right? It's full body. You are working most, if not all of the muscles associated you are working the muscles that you're supposed to work in that day. It doesn't have to be everything at that one given day, but you are working the muscles that you are trying to achieve, or whatever stimuli that you're trying to achieve, you can work it that way. So for example, you got your sprints in the front, you got your jumps in the back, you got your rotational throws in the side, right? You got let's say you want to do power cleans, right? I would probably just do the Olympic lifts on the back day just because, or you could do in the front because let's just say you don't want to put too much strain on the posterior chain on back day, which I would put back day in the front in day one, right? Let's put the Olympic lifts on front day where you could go, let's say, front day sprint, uphill sprints, whatever works the knee flexors, right? Whatever works the calves, right? For example, the front or the shin angles and stuff like that. Okay, let's work that. And then we could add Olympic lifts on the front. Or if you just want to do in the back, you can. You have that, it come into play. So you're doing the Olympic lifts, you're doing the plyometrics, you're doing full body strength movement, right? Just because you're not doing bench, let's say just because you're not doing bench and then a deadlift, let's say, or a bench and then a row and then a squat and then a deadlift or a knee flexion exercise with a hip hinge, doesn't really mean that you're not working everything because the body's a unit. The body's a system. The body works as one. It's just that we choose to, if the stress management, the fatigue management comes into it. It's like, hey, there's no one really working the full body 7 days a week. It's like we can theoretically, it's like, but the full body goes with everything that you're training on. Unless you're a bodybuilder. Now, if you're a bodybuilder, you want to do chest and triceps and you want to do back and biceps and big upper bodies, chicken legs, sure, Johnny Bravo and stuff like that, that's cool. But, you're working the full body, you're still working in an athletic sense, you're still having an athletic approach, and you're still involving rotation. And not to mention, you can still add in your tempos, you can still add in your gizmos, your gadgets, floating heel, heel elevated. You could play with the modalities, right? You have the one period of the block where you could do restorative work. So let's say you do just mainly heavy lifting on the first 3 days, because the first 3 days constitutes full body all 3 days, where you can work your hip hinges, your pressing, your pulling, your rotation, right? Let's say you want to do heavy landmine twists because you just want a tree trunk, or you want the sequoia trees of a core, right? Or, you want to do heavy lateral raises on the side, and you just want to do heavy presses, heavy rows. You can do it that. And then the back of the last 3 sessions, right, front, back, and side, you can do more restorative. You can do much more mobility based. You can do distractions with the bands. You could do a smash with the lacrosse ball, right? You could do that in those sessions. So you can mix and match and you can play with it. And that's one of the beauties with, just understanding that there's just more than, I guess, the bodybuilding sense, the science-based lifting sense, the powerlifting, the Olympic weightlifting. You could put all into it together, and don't even get me started about goals, because it's like, hey, in my opinion, all right, we are all athletic beings. We all have the capable now, unless unless you're disabled, you're physically disabled, you can't. But even then, they're beasts. Just because you don't have legs can't mean you can't press a monster 500. Yeah, I see people in wheelchairs doing muscle ups, so it could be done. So we all have athletic attributes. We all do. But, if we choose not to train that way. And it's a shame. Now, health and fitness is becoming more of a forefront in, Western society and now in the global society. Athletics is now it's creeping up into the forefront in terms of mainstream attention and more of a societal norm. But, we need people to understand that there's just more to fitness. There's fitness than just bodybuilding, walking, the very in the box limited mindset, that usually brings a certain mindset into it, where we have an audience or a very large group of people that feel like everything needs to be instant. If it's hard, I'm not going to do it. And this mentality that just has them quit well before the results can even peek through the door and say, hey, I'm here. So, but the thing is, with athletes, I honestly can't name one elite athlete, one champion, one Olympic champion, one professional champion who is not self-motivated in a sense, because they have a goal, whether the goal is monetary, whether the goal is, pride, the goal is something greater than themselves. So I haven't seen one athlete or one elite athlete that wants it, not want it. And, when it comes to athletes, you already have the mindset of trying to achieve what you're trying to achieve, whatever the goal is, whether it's you running a marathon, whether it's you running a marathon within a certain time, whether it's you even running a mile within a certain time, or you playing football, or you trying to become a fighter. It doesn't really matter. The goal of the athletic goal in mind allows the mind to pursue that goal, pursue that sport, whatever that endeavor that you want to achieve, right? What is it, WWE, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, you already have that athletic mindset to achieve that goal. And, people really need to, in my opinion, people need to start, attacking things from a health and fitness wise, right? They need to start attacking that with an athletic approach. But hey, if you don't want to do that, you don't have to do it. But that's the way I see it in terms of just training in general. So yeah, the split's unique, but it's the idea that, you can do it. You can experiment with it, and it's a good split, and it's a great split actually. And I'm going to continue to do it. Let's see where it goes, because it has everything. To me, it has everything. It's not everything, it's not everything all the time, but it has everything.
Yeah, no, it's very unique. You mentioned football, and if I remember correctly, looking at one of your stories or posts, you played football in college?
Yeah, so I was a football player in college at Florida State University for 3 years. I did the football. I had big aspirations to do the NFL, try to do the semi-pro. Let's just say the chips didn't fall where it made. So I did 3 years of college football at Florida State University as a walk-on. Graduated, went into the master's program at Florida State University. That's where I became a All-American my first season at the Florida State University Wrestling Club. So I'm kind of in a unique position where I could say that I played college football and I wrestled. So I played college football. I've done what I needed to do at the college football level in terms of, I guess, I've seen the highs and the highs. I was within a pretty good squad where we were winning, and then I've seen the lows of the lows where our team broke the winning streak, the bowl record, and the first losing season in 30 years and stuff like that. So I've been in the peaks and I've been in the valleys. It's given me a very fresh perspective in terms of the entire athletic approach. And it is, it ties into the reason why I went to university to get my master's degree in sports management and stuff like that. So, but I did do 3 years of college football. then after that, I decided to reawaken my love for the sport of wrestling. And because the pursuit of football didn't work out in the favor, I decided, hey, look, the second best thing to football is wrestling, in my opinion, or combat sports, right? That's what the famous Gable Stevenson has witnessed. Hey, if football doesn't work, we can just always go back to wrestling, combat sports, right? But then, because the thing is with wrestling, wrestling is it's the oldest sport, right? It's considered to be the oldest sport. It's a sport that not only that we tend to do, other animals in the animal kingdom tend to do the same sport, right? It's not they don't view it that way, but their aggressive techniques in violence, constituting grappling. We've all seen the bears, we've all seen the gorillas, we've all seen the monkeys, we've all seen even cats and dogs. They have a form of grappling, they have a form of wrestling within their violent nature, within them getting after each other. So, wrestling is the oldest sport, and wrestling is, for me, it's universal. It's universal. It's a fundamental right to wrestle. Right? What was it? Life, death, and taxes. Wrestling should be right on the cornerstone of Mount Rushmore of guarantees, because wrestling, it's a beautiful sport. It's a beautiful sport. I did do 1 year of high school wrestling. I did 1 year of football, 1 year of football, and 2 years of football, 1 year of high school wrestling. And I wasn't good because I started sports late. But I did one year of high school wrestling, and I was one of those athletes, and I was one of those wrestlers that I don't know what the hell I was doing. Right? I was one of those athletes that the coach was like, hey, football players wrestle. So all right, so I went to wrestling because I was an athlete. I wanted to be an athlete. Because I started sports so late, I'm here thinking, hey, let's just, all right, wrestling could make my football game better. Let's do it. So I didn't know anything about wrestling. I was just doing it to do it. But, I wanted to do my second season, but I tore my thumb. I tore a ligament in my right thumb the last game of my high school football career. And, the mental crutch didn't allow me to just go gung ho, because I got surgery, and it was like a couple months before before the wrestling season come up, and I was like, let's not just, I couldn't do it. But then that thought in my mind of what if, I don't know, the thought in my mind of what if, because there's a certain draw to wrestling that it doesn't get everybody, and that's the double-edged sword, because it doesn't get everybody, but once it gets you, right, when wrestling chooses you, it's like, yo. It's a damn moment. It's like you look back, you're like, damn, what if I stuck with this? And it's the hardest sport, in my opinion. It's the physically most exhausting sport that you could do. Doesn't matter if it's 6 minutes, 1 minute. The warm-up is exhausting. The drilling is exhausting. The live wrestling is exhausting. The sheer panic of pressure, all the thoughts that go into your mind until you shake your opponent's hand and you start feeling each other. Pause. That's exhausting. It's the most mentally and physically exhausting sport known to man. But it's a damn moment. It's like, yo, what if I just stuck with it? What if I just, didn't? What if I just tried a little bit harder? And it hits athletes. It hits wrestlers who've done it more than the people who are trying to get into it, if that makes sense. So it's like, man, what if I just stuck with it? So that mindset lingered into my head within me playing football. Like, if you ask some of my teammates, I would be talking to wrestling. I would be talking about wrestling nonstop. Like, hey, blah, 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 blah is, this move, do this, et cetera, et cetera. And then within my third year in football, I got introduced to the wrestling club, because I'm like, hey, look, wrestling's in my head. I don't know where I'm going to get a wrestling club in the city. Let me see if the university has a wrestling club. So thankfully they did. And, I was able to, continue learning how to wrestle, even though I haven't wrestled in 6-7 years before that. And I did the 1 year wrestling, right? And I don't know, wrestling just called onto me. I don't know why. I've just developed a passion for it, even though it was never a pursuit from an early age, because these wrestlers these days, they be starting young. Very young, 2, 3, 4, 5. competitions, like 100 competitions by the age of 12. It's like, yo, that's crazy. But, wrestling is a beautiful sport because it allows you to train the way that I'm training, the way that wrestlers are training, where you get to experiment, you get to be the guinea pigs, right? You get to be the guinea pigs to whatever style of training that you want to do if it's conducive to the sport. For example, if you're a football player or you're a basketball player, you're not going to be doing the same things that a baseball player or combat athlete would, in a sense, in terms of responsibilities of your position in the sport, whether it's the exercise for injury prevention, et cetera, based off the movement patterns in your sport, right? So, for example, a cross country runner will never train nearly as much as a 300-pound lineman in football. All right, they'll do similar exercises, but they're not good. The purpose behind exercises, or the exercise selection, the selection of the exercises will not be universally applicable to every sport, besides wrestling and combat sports within the combat sporting field. But wrestling does allow us to be the guinea pigs. Wrestling does allow us to really try and go get after it. Or if you want to do calisthenics for a little bit, if you want to run, if you want to jump, if you want to do plyometrics, if you want to work out like a weightlifter, you can. If you want to build some muscle to look jacked and strong, because you know what they say, bigger muscles are stronger muscle, right? If you want to go for a swim, if you want to do triathlons and you want to ride a bike, you can. But within the current confines of obviously, the wrestling time windows and so for example, if you're going to do a competition, don't be running marathons before the competition, stuff like that. But it does allow you to do stuff like that. It does allow you to do that. It does allow you to expand your horizons in terms of your training field, right? Your training field, without you breaking universal laws and without you, compromising energy expenditure and, risk of injury and stuff like that. If it allows you to, your training allows you to become more conditioned, stronger, mentally alert, and just physically just a dog, whatever exercises you want to do within those 4 branches or within those 4 parameters to achieve the result that you want to achieve as a wrestler, whether it's to win, whether it's you to execute an overhook throw, whether it's you to execute a beautiful fireman's with in the third period, or at the end of the 2 minutes left at the 25 at the 5th round, you can do that. You can do that. That's what wrestling allows, and it's the beauty of it is because before me even getting into sports, I was already training. I started sports at 17, but I was training since I was 15. So I already had 2 years of training, but the reason why I got into sports in the first place is because I'm here thinking, I love running, I love calisthenics, I love push-ups, I love pull-ups, I like, lifting. I used to be one of those kids that I would use like jugs of sand and I'd do barbell curls with it. I would just hold it and just walk the block with jugs of sand, right? Whatever got me the pump, whatever got me the muscle tension, the soreness. The next day, that's what I wanted. But at the end of the day, I'm like, why am I doing this if it's not an end goal, if I'm not going to do something with it? So that's why I got into sport. I'm like, hey, let's try football, because let's apply this general base strength conditioning, and let's let this physical attribute that I have, let's apply it into a sport. So with wrestling, it's an individual sport. It's a sport where, it allows you to train the way, whatever the hell you want to train. And, it's an individual sport, and whatever you put in is what you're going to get out. So for example, if you put in half-assed effort, you're not going to get 100% results, or you're not going to get the win. Now, needle in a haystack possibility where, let's say you're about to get pinned and, let's say your opponent decides to overcommit or something and you pin them. Okay, that could happen. But if you're not, it's like a direct reflection of the effort that you put in, the results. So if you're not putting in 100% if you're not putting in what you're trying to get out of it, you're not going to get the results that you want. So the wrestling is such a individual mindset. And I did the football, in my opinion, And, as much as I loved winning and as much as I loved the team camaraderie, I loved my teammates, I root for all of them, whenever I see them on social media, it's the idea that the results that the process and the efforts that I was putting, right, it was a shared result. It based off varied efforts. And I'm like, I don't know if I could do that. I have 2 bowl rings. So like I said, I understand how it feels to win and I understand how it feels to lose, right? In a team aspect. But with wrestling is like I said, the elite athletes, the champions in whatever sport, they have that dog mentality, whether you're in a team sport or individual sport. To be a successful athlete, you have to have that mentality to get that motivated mentality to go get whatever you need to go get. And that's what wrestling provides, but in an individual sport, right? It allows you to tap into your inner self. It allows you to tap into your physical attributes, into your mindset, your grit, your determination, right? And that's why I say, it's a shame that, but I will tell you this. Wrestling is becoming much more mainstream because of the UFC and the current champions do have a wrestling background. And now the current era of fighting, especially in combat sport, is becoming more predominantly wrestling, which is a beauty to see. It's a beauty to see. Now, based on marketing and stuff like that in certain regions of the world, could do a bit better. But as a whole, in terms of freestyle, Greco-Roman, folk style, wrestling in general is becoming much more mainstream. And it's a sight to see. It is a sight to see. That's a little bit about my sporting background.
Okay. Just to piggyback off what you said about wrestling becoming more mainstream, I'd love to hear your thoughts about the main event from last Saturday in the UFC. Your thoughts on the fight that just happened this weekend in the UFC, Khamzat Chimaev versus Duplessis.
Duplessis? Oh man, you want my honest opinion? Or it's like the thing about the is, well, what do they say? What's the phrase? Show me who your friends are, right? Show me who your friends are, who you're associated with, and I'll tell you, what you're about. No knock on DDP. Great athlete. I love the way he fights, very unorthodox. But we're talking about a fairly successful wrestler with a I will get it no matter what mentality. And I'm not even saying that's 50%. The other 50% is he was wrestling, he was training with Olympic champions. He was wrestling, he was being coached by the late great Satiev, right? Bobazar Satiev. So it's like, now, was I predicting a knockout? No. Was I predicting? I didn't know what the outcome would be, right? Everybody likes to speculate, first round knockout. Like the memes were saying, DDP by, drawing a hole in the middle of the octagon, Chimaev falling down, right? Yeah, so, but the thing is, if Chimaev wanted to wrestle DDP for the entire 25 minutes, he was going to do so. I had no doubt in my mind that Chimaev was going to lose that fight. I had 0%. Negatives, what's that? Divided by 0, the error. I knew that Chimaev was not going to lose that fight because I knew, even since the first day I got known to him, I'm like, this is a different athlete. This is a different mentality. I mean, he even said it, that, COVID, when he got sick of COVID, he was doubting himself, but he came back because, the people wanted him to continue. The thing is, a lot of people would have quit. They're like, no, I don't think I can do this. I'm getting a little older in age, right? I don't think I can do this. I don't think it's feasible. He said, F that. He went and trained. He got highlight reels, and it's the dog mentality. Now, whether or not, his wrestling is elite, certain so-and-so could beat him in wrestling, certain so-and-so could beat him. Okay, that's good in theory if you think that, but he's shown you time and time again that he's just going to win. He's going to get after it. He's just going to, and it's because he has the wrestling mindset. And, like I said, the champions in this day and age, they are becoming much more wrestling centric. And it's just putting more into the feather cap of the sport. Wrestling is becoming forefront. And don't get me started about law enforcement, their lack of wrestling and judo, and how they have to resort to shooting people and letting the perps get away. Don't get me started about that. With simple wrestling, I'm telling you, like 6 months of wrestling, just the mentality alone will change a lot of things in this world. Just the mentality alone. 6 months. A year, forget about it. This world will be a peaceful world. Ooh, I'll tell you that.
I thought there's a lot of just talk of that fight being boring. And I guess from the average person's perspective, It probably was, but that doesn't take away from the fact that it was just complete domination of someone who was a really
Yeah.
good champ.
Yeah, no. The thing is, when people say it's boring, it's like, nah, I understand. I get it. I get it. You know what it is? You know what it is? It's because they already have this mentality. They have this mindset that wrestling is boring because they see, they see it from a wrestling perspective where, oh, this match is boring. Wrestling is boring because, they want the heavy hits. They want the knockouts. I understand. You want the punch kick, the spinning elbows. You want blood. People want blood. Honestly, that's where it comes down to it. People want blood. We are a violent race. The human race are violent. We're basically animals. We're basically animals. But people call it boring because, it's like, oh, I get it. We holding people, nothing's happening, everything's static before something changes. But even then, it's like, hey, we ain't come here to watch a wrestling match. If I want to watch a wrestling match, I'll go to a high school. Et cetera, et cetera. I'll watch YouTube clips. But, they don't understand that wrestling is associated with fighting. So, for example, if me and you start to tussle and we don't even, we have a beef and we start to tussle, right? Naturally, think about it this way. Boxers do it all the time. They punch, and, let's say they don't want to punch anymore, they clinch. They go into over-unders. Right? They basically in a Greco position. They're in a Greco-Roman wrestling position, the over-under, right? The only thing they can't do is just take them down, right? And that's what I'm saying. Even boxers do elements of wrestling, right? So let's say you and me on a real fight, one of them's good now if it's just a straight, you hopping, you jabbing, you slip and punch, you manage your distance, and we just want to duke it out, that's cool. But let's say, in the heat of a moment, right? Let's just say you want to punch me or something like that, and I'm trying to defend myself. We're probably going to go to the ground. And that's what a fight is. Wrestling isn't incorporated into an actual fight. So the idea that, it's boring, it's like, number one, it's part of the sport. It's mixed martial art, right? It's not just martial art. It's not karate. It's not kickboxing. It's not judo. It's not even wrestling. It's all of it. Right? So if Chimaev wants to go hug a person for 55 minutes, throw some elbows, and, try to threaten a crucifix choke or, threaten submissions and stuff like that, or if he wanted to just box it out for 25 minutes, he could have done so too. But he said, you know what it is? It's like, and especially with the UFC fans, I don't know why they do this. It's like they know a certain fighter is going to do a certain thing, and they're still mad that the certain fighter that they know is going to do a certain thing, they're mad that they're going to do a certain thing. It's just, I don't even think it's a funny dynamic because you don't even know. It's like, are you hating because of Chimaev, or are you hating because he was wrestling, or are you just hating because you just want to be a hater? You're just a DDP fan and stuff like that. But, it's not boring. It's just, you're just not a fan of the sport, I guess.
I am of the impression, and this is like revisionist history, but if Chimaev submits him in round 4 or even round 5, no one's saying that's a boring fight. I think it's the fact that it went the distance in such a one-sided fashion.
Yeah. That's what it is. What they usually want is, if it's not a knockout, it's not a submission, it's either they want a one-sided domination, but it's a one domination on the feet. They don't want a one-sided domination on the ground. That's what it is. But the thing is, they either want that, they just want, hey, it's a master. What's the famous Joe Rogan line? A master class. He was phenomenal with the jab. He was perfect in his technique and stuff like that. But they want to see it standing up, or they want to see two warriors going to the distance. They add a little bit of wrestling there, escapes, submission attempts, or submission reversals. They sprinkled a little bit of that, but they generally want a boxing match for 25 minutes. And, hey, I don't know what to tell you. Chimaev had a game plan, and the game plan was the game plan. And we all know what the game plan is. He is the game plan, right? So, and we're still mad about that. I don't know. It's just, people are weird. People just like to hate.
Yeah. All right. So we're coming towards the end of the interview. It's funny. I had a bunch of questions to ask, but I would ask you one question and you'd answer like 5 of them in your response. So, which is good. It's good. I'm not complaining in any way. But when it comes to you and your own personal brand, your own personal training, like what do you have for, like, let's say your social media going forward? What do you have for, let's say, competitive wrestling going forward? Just what things do you have just going forward, whether it's social media and in real life?
Oh man. Okay, so right now, since I am kind of sidelined wrestling wise, right now the main focus is to continue my social media, my branding social media. I'm trying to get some merchandise, since I have a few grand ideas. But I'm not gonna say all of them. But for right now, I am trying to make a little bit of merchandise, some let's just say personal branding. I am I'm associating myself with a online strength and conditioning app, right? I'm partnering with Training Heroic to get online programs at a much more convenient and efficient manner. I'm still working on my own program. So if you guys need custom programming, whether it's wrestling, judo, let's say a little boxing in there, combat sports, I'm your man. We could get into either whether it's one-on-one coaching, online coaching, whether it's online programs, right? Whether it's consultation or, just general advice. I'm honestly open to the public. I don't really like gatekeeping. I don't know why, because you know what it is because even though I started late in sports, everything was self-taught. Now, I'm not saying I learned everything by myself. No, I had great people along the way, right? I had great mentors per se, but everything was self-taught. Right. And with everything being self-taught, that usually means that everything was, for me, free. Right. And I came to the realization that fitness is free. That's why it starts with an F. Fitness is free, and strength and conditioning is part of fitness. So, I try not to gatekeep it, because I personally came from a stance. I came from a position where I had to learn everything practically on my own. Right. I didn't have, grand mentors teaching me about strength and conditioning. I didn't have, hell, let me just tell you this short story. One day, I think it was in summer of 2013, I said, damn, the push-ups, like I was telling you, I got bored of doing push-ups. I was attending a magnet program that didn't have sports. So I didn't have sports in my high school. So my mom did not want me to get into football, because obviously moms don't. Now, unless you're a football head and you come from a football family, or you have, who have that football, because, I'm living I live in South Florida. I'm from the Dominican Republic. The football is not big there. Football is not known, in the household, right? I had to discover football. I had to discover these sports. So I took my happy ass. I ran close to 2 miles in one school, right? Saying, hey, you live too far, and then hopped around and probably the next day ran and went to another school where I basically I literally walked on the high school football team on my local high school. So, everything was just self-taught. So, if I could do it, right? If I could do it, and I know that it's free, and I know that this information is out there, right? I feel like it's my moral responsibility, it's my moral duty. It's in my fiber of my being to at least help somebody the best I can. But at the same time, everything costs, So what I'm doing right now, like I said, I'm partnering with Train Heroic, the app, the online training app, Train Heroic. So stay tuned for that. I do have my own custom programming. I'm trying to make some merchandising. One thing I am trying to do, and there's a lot of things, but one thing I will try to disclose is I'm trying to get into developing my own, I guess, I'm not gonna say sports drink, but let's say sports drink, right? Because when it comes to, even though, I'm a strength and conditionist, strength and conditioning coach first. I have a huge passion for nutrition and hydration, right? And thankfully, I have someone in my family who's a dietitian, a nutritionist. So I'm gonna get with her and see what I could do to build my own little. Personally, I don't like drinking water, right? I'm one of those cats that don't like. I think that's the Dominican in me. We don't like drinking water. We don't. Maybe because every bottle costs, or maybe because X, Y, and Z. But we don't like drinking water. I don't like drinking water. I'm not saying every person in the Dominican Republic don't like drinking water, but I don't like drinking water. The thing is, water with electrolytes and hydration is vital. It's vital in strength and conditioning. It's vital in contact and combat sports, and it's vital in everyday life. So I'm trying to see how I could create my own little water brand, as you will. But other than that, you can follow me on social media, Williams Wrestling on Instagram, Facebook. I don't really use for. I'm still developing a brand on other platforms, but follow me mainly on Instagram. Eventually, I'm gonna start really posting on YouTube. Now, if you want individual videos, now it's not consistent, but I do upload individual videos onto my YouTube channel as like a little video library. That's at Williams Wrestling as well. But that's pretty much it. You know, competitive wise, like I said, you know, my eyes are still into competing with the Dominican Republic. I do have association with the Dominican Republic Olympic wrestling team. I still have contact with those great people. If you are a Dominican wrestler or you know of a Dominican wrestler, right? And if you're watching this video, please contact me. And if you want to represent the Dominican Republic, contact me and we'll see what we could do to have you put on La Bandera, the red, white, and blue, the patria. Because, you know, Dominican Republic can never have enough wrestlers. But that's a little bit about me, and that's all there is to it. You know, I would love to have a part 2. If, you know, whatever you want to have a part 2, we can. We can always run it back, be a little bit more nuanced with certain topics. You know, I apologize. Sometimes I'm a bit of a rambler, and sometimes I lose the plot. So, you know, next time, you know, you go, hey, let's, you know, get on track and stuff like that. If you want to direct and gear the conversation for more, I guess, informationally technical and to informational episode, we can.
No, for sure. No, the way you answered questions, very insightful. None of my guests kind of answered questions like that. So it's kind of like a breath of fresh air, just something different. Normally I'd get like 20 questions, but here we had like just 4 or 5 of them, and you answered them very deeply. So like, I appreciate the different type of dynamic we have here.
I appreciate it. And I will make sure that next time we have, because I have no idea if the video quality on your end is, because right now because like I said, I'm doing hotspot, so you know.
Yeah, no.
But next time
it always appears to be worse than it actually is. It cleans it up once it like exports it.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you know, next time I'll do my best to make sure I'm in a much more wireless efficient environment.
Yeah. No. We'll definitely do a part 2. But thank you for watching, everyone. All the descriptions for all the different social medias will be in the description of this video. Make sure to click it. If you're on Spotify, head over to YouTube to find the links. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, class is dismissed.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the face.